My name is Alara Wynn, and I'm 31 years old. The evening the lie arrived, the apartment smelled like garlic and the good kind of exhaustion. My laptop hummed on the counter, emails stacked like plates. When my phone lit up with Evan's name, I wiped olive oil off my fingertips and answered on the second ring. Girlfriend muscle memory. He was crying. Elle, are you home? I'm at my parents'. It's Dad. There was some kind of medical emergency. We're dealing with insurance. Can I use your card for the copay? Just until we sort this out. I looked at the credit card tucked in his wallet, the one I'd given him for actual emergencies months ago. I didn't hear sirens. I heard performance. But love is a series of small yeses until you notice you've run out of no. Of course, I said, gentle. Family first. How much? Maybe 1,000? Insurance is being weird. Take care of your dad, I said, and hung up before my voice could calcify. Then I did what my instincts do when my heart wants to be naive. I opened my banking app. Instant notifications on. Temporary freeze applied. $1,500 unfreeze window. Exactly 2 hours. If it was medical, it would cover the copay. If it wasn't, the card would be a locked door with a peephole. 2 hours passed. No charge. The silence had weight. When Evan came home that night, he smelled like my favorite rosemary body wash, which he never used. He kissed my shoulder, overdid the laughter, plated my favorite pasta, and kept refilling my wine like a sommelier with a quota. How's your dad? I asked, stirring sauce I didn't have to stir. He didn't meet my eyes. Better. Insurance sorted it out. Didn't need the card after all. Smile, dimple, curtain. That's great, I said, and slid my phone under the table, thumb waking the screen, thumb opening the other app, the one that shows declined attempts. 3 neat lines in corporate blue, Paradise Cruise Lines. Amounts, $14,870, $14,870, $14,870. Time stamped inside the 2-hour window. I could almost see the ocean reflected in those numbers. I didn't confront him, not yet. I let the lie stand in the room and measure us. 2 days later, while he showered, his phone lit up on the coffee table. Mom, Diane, over and over, her contact photo flashing like a lighthouse warning. We were already on the rocks. Evan bolted out wrapped in a towel, grabbed the phone, went white, then disappeared into the bedroom to whisper. 15 minutes later, hey, so my parents want to have dinner tonight. They want to thank you for being supportive. Interesting. I smiled like granite. Sure, what time? The steakhouse was the kind of place that turns noise into velvet. Roger already had a bottle of expensive red breathing, like it had lungs. Diane wore a gold cuff and a story about minor renovations. Just the kitchen, the sunroom, the part of the house where money likes to pose. No mention of hospitals, no mention of copays. Halfway through my steak, Roger cleared his throat, a practiced orator. So, kiddo, he said to me, like I'd been hired as his intern in life. We've got a small problem. He cut a look at Evan that said, be useful. Diane sighed, sorrow arranged on her face like jewelry. There's been a technical issue with our cruise booking. I set down my fork. Cruise. Evan shifted. Dad, maybe... No, he should know. Roger leaned in, magnanimous in crisis. 30 years married. We booked this anniversary cruise months ago. The presidential suite. A banking error's threatening the payment. We might lose our suite. Just bad luck. Devastating, Diane breathed. We've saved for years. Roger's smile was the smile of a man who believes the world is a vending machine if you lean hard enough. Could you help us out? Just until the bank sorts this mess. Monday, we pay you back immediately. My pulse slowed the way it does when you recognize a pattern that has been introducing itself for months. How much are we talking? About 15,000, Roger said, casual as weather. I lifted my phone. Let me check my limit. I watched my own reflection in the black glass for 3 counts, then turned the screen toward Evan. Oh, that's odd. Tap. Look at this. 3 declined charges from Paradise Cruise Lines last Tuesday afternoon for $14,870 each. That's the same time there was a medical emergency with your dad, right? Silence set the tablecloth on fire. Evan's mouth opened and closed. Roger's face went a color I'd only seen on rare steaks. Diane reached for the story and dropped it. It shattered. Evan started, voice tinny. You told me it was medical, I said softly. because rage at full volume is less effective than a whisper that knows it's right. I offered help for the hospital, not for a luxury suite at sea. It was an emergency, Diane snapped, composure cracking. We would lose our deposit. A deposit on a presidential suite is not an emergency. I folded my napkin, a slow ceremony for a fast ending. Roger slammed the table. Glass quivered. Now listen here. My son deserves better than some penny pinching. The son who used my emergency card for a cruise? I didn't raise my voice. I didn't have to. Evan found a scrap of bravado. I didn't think it was such a big deal. You had money, Roger bit out, like it was evidence against me. Had, I said. Past tense. At 3:47 p.m. on Tuesday, when you tried to make my emergency fund your vacation plan. I took out my wallet, left cash for my steak, and stood. We're done here. I looked at Evan, not unkindly. You can move back in with your parents, who apparently have money for presidential suites, but not their own credit cards. I walked out into night air, sharp enough to wake the part of me that had been asleep for years. The door shut behind me with the finality of a gavel. Somewhere between the maitre d' and the sidewalk, I knew. When people show you their version of emergency, believe them and build better locks. The morning after the steakhouse, I woke before the alarm, heart already standing at attention. I made coffee like I was diffusing something, slow, precise, careful not to jostle any wires I couldn't see. There's a strange calm that follows a detonation. You can hear the shape of what's missing. Checklist. I opened my laptop and began a quiet evacuation. Canceled the card Evan carried. Changed every password with the cold efficiency I reserve for tax season and breakups. Moved 90% of my savings to a fresh account with a nickname that meant nothing to anyone but me. Scheduled an installation for the security cameras I kept meaning to buy. Then I took a slow walk around the apartment with my phone, filming drawers, shelves, labels, an inventory video for a future I now expected. At 7:03 a.m., the doorbell converted my spine to glass. Out the window, a U-Haul, orange and inevitable. Roger in a navy windbreaker, chin up like a foreman. Diane, immaculate and already annoyed. Evan, shoulders rounded in a hoodie, flanked by two guys I didn't recognize, the kind paid by the hour to lift whatever someone points at. They looked up in a single movement, like birds spotting the same scrap of bread. I opened the door and kept my body in the frame. Morning. We're here to collect Evan's things, Diane said, stepping forward as if the air between us owed her money. Great, I said, pleasant like a receptionist with security on speed dial. I lifted my phone. We'll document everything that leaves. If it's his, it goes. If it's not, it stays. Roger shouldered past me on instinct. I didn't move. He stopped when he felt the refusal. This is our family business, he said. This is my lease. I pointed to the plaque by the door with my last name. So we'll do it my way. For 3 hours, my apartment turned into a courtroom without a judge. The movers drifted between objects while Diane narrated possession like a superstition. The TV, Evan watches it more, so it's basically his. The console, community property. My coffee maker. I bought this for them last Christmas. My toolbox, Roger already had the handle in his fist when I said, "Put that down." I opened folders and found receipts like they were talismans. TV, delivered to me. Console, my order confirmation, my card. Coffee maker. I bought it for myself. The gift was your presence the night we unboxed it and you told me to descale. Toolbox, belonged to my dad before it belonged to me. Not leaving. Evan hovered, hands in pockets, eyes anywhere but mine. I watched him watch his parents argue with paper. Diane switched tactics, gossip disguised as moral authority. After how you treated our son, we should take everything. Imagine humiliating him like you did in public. I gave the camera a close-up of the serial number on the TV. Imagine trying to charge $15,000 on someone else's card and calling the truth humiliation. Roger's jaw worked. We're not playing gotcha with receipts all day. We are, I said, and we will. And if something that's not Evan's crosses this threshold, I call the police. I smiled, like I had all the time in the world. I also have 3 angles of video running. Wave. I thought we might get through it. Just push and pull and paperwork, until Roger made the mistake I had predicted and still hoped he wouldn't. He tried to shoulder past me with the console tucked against his ribs. When I didn't move, he shoved me, open-palmed, enough to skid me back half a step, enough to leave heat blooming across my collarbone, right in front of the camera on the bookcase. Silence for a beat. Even the movers stopped breathing. I looked at him the way you look at a child holding a match over a curtain. Then I lifted my phone, hit 911, and pressed speaker. "Emergency services," the operator said. "What is your emergency?" "My ex-boyfriend's father just assaulted me while attempting to remove items from my apartment," I said, steady as a metronome. "I have video." Roger's cheeks went the color of a bad decision. Diane hissed, "You wouldn't dare." "I'm already doing it," I said. They left in under 5 minutes, the speed of retreat when consequences are finally invited into the room. The movers apologized with their eyes. Evan trailed last, paused like he might say something, then didn't. After they were gone, I closed the door and leaned my forehead against the cool wood. The apartment looked like memory staging a protest. Open drawers, a stack of folded shirts that had belonged to a life that no longer did. I made a second, slower inventory video, this time catching the tremble in my hands and not caring. At 2:11 p.m., my phone rang with a number I recognized from the hold music of adulthood. "Ms. Wynn, this is fraud prevention on your Capital Edge card. We wanted to confirm a $3,200 attempted purchase at Max Tech Electronics." "I canceled that card this morning," I said. "Yes, the charge was declined. We've noted it as fraud and will monitor the account." "Thank you," I said, and meant the mechanical mercy of it. By 3, the next stage had already begun, the storytelling one, the kind where the truth is a character and rumor is the narrator. My neighbor texted, "Heads up, Evan's been telling people you're abusive, controlling with money, kicked him out with nothing." Another message. He went to the manager, said the eviction was illegal. The building manager called an hour later, voice professional with an undertone of, "I hate this part. Ms. Wynn, there's been a complaint. If you could send a copy of your lease." "Absolutely," I said. "It's only my name on it." I attached the PDF in under a minute, then added a neat package, time-stamped video of the movie out, a log of attempted charges, and a calm note. "I am enforcing boundaries and property rights. Please let me know if you need anything else." He responded, "Received. Thank you. I'll handle it." I stood in the quiet that followed and realized I had built a small fortress out of boring things: documents, cameras, dates, times, the kind of fortress that doesn't look like protection until someone tries the door. Around dusk, a text from an unknown number arrived. Just one word: "Sorry," as if apology could put closed fists back into pockets and turn cruise ships around at sea. I didn't reply, not out of cruelty, out of math. The ledger had been updated. The numbers didn't lie. I checked the camera feeds before bed. In the grainy hallway view, the elevator opened and closed, like a mouth practicing. If you listened hard enough, you could hear tomorrow loading. By Tuesday, I'd begun to think the storm had passed. That was my mistake. Storms only pause to gather evidence. I woke to 3 missed calls from HR, which is never a sentence that starts a good day. When I finally reached my boss, she sounded almost apologetic. "Ilara, someone sent an anonymous email accusing you of embezzling company funds. They attached screenshots of your credit card statements, purchases labeled as luxury handbags, spa trips, online shopping. We just want to verify something." For a moment, I thought I might laugh. "I don't have a company card," I said. "I know," she said, already laughing. "We checked. They didn't even get your job title right. It doesn't have company cards. Still, we traced the email IP." "Let me guess," I said. She hesitated, professional even when she wanted to gossip. "A public library near a Roger and Diane Cole's address." "Of course," I said. "Consistency is comforting." We both chuckled, but my hands were trembling when I hung up. Because what does it mean when people have run out of shame but not out of ideas? That evening, I poured a glass of wine, opened my laptop, and saw my phone explode. Notifications, tags, reposts. Evan's ex-girlfriend, Tara, had posted on social media a photo of her hand on her stomach. The caption: "Sometimes men throw you out even when you're carrying their child." And beneath it, #justice, #truth, #baby on the way, #Ilara Wynn. The comments were a mob. "That monster! He cheated with her? Pregnant and homeless? I hope karma finds her." My throat went dry. It was such an easy lie. A single sentence could undo a reputation that had taken years of quiet decency to build. So I posted once, calm, factual, surgical. Happy to take a paternity test today. Evan knows where to find me. And then I put my phone face down and went for a walk. When I came back, the post was deleted. Tara's account had gone private. The crowd moved on, hungry for new noise. By morning, the next attack had already arrived. Credit monitoring alert. Someone had applied for a new credit card in my name, then another, then 7 within 1 hour. I stared at the emails, the perfect absurdity of them. The only reason I knew was because months ago, after the first fraud attempt, I'd frozen my credit, which meant every application bounced automatically, and each denial carried the IP address, device ID, and home address of the person who tried. Evan Cole, Roger and Diane's house. For a long moment, I didn't move. Then I called Evan, the first time since the steakhouse. He answered on the second ring. Evan, you have 1 hour, I said. He tried to sound confused. What are you talking about? 1 hour to call every bank you applied to and withdraw the applications. I have the IP. I have the address. You used your parents' Wi-Fi. If you don't, I'll file a police report for identity theft. A pause. The kind of silence where someone's pride is trying to decide whether it's worth going to jail for. Alara, he said softly. You wouldn't... 49 minutes left. I hung up. 45 minutes later, the confirmation emails arrived one by one. Application withdrawn. Application withdrawn. Application withdrawn. The last one came from a card company I'd never heard of. I opened it just to see the timestamp. 10:42 a.m. Right after, my neighbor sent a screenshot from Diane's Facebook. A blurry photo of a cruise ship captioned, "Evil wins. Karma will find those who betray family." She'd tagged no one but herself. The ship in the photo was leaving port. The date on the ticket stub in her hand was yesterday. Meaning, the cruise had already sailed. Meaning, they'd lost everything. The deposit, the suite, the fantasy. I should have felt satisfaction, but what I felt was something closer to awe. How much destruction a lie can cause when you protect it like a child. That night, I sat in the glow of my monitor, half a glass of wine left, and reread my own messages. Every text, every warning, every moment where I could have left earlier. At 11:12 p.m., a message came through from Evan. Just one word. Sorry. I stared at it for a long time, then turned my phone face down again. Because forgiveness is a door, and some people don't deserve a key. For 3 days, there was silence, the kind that feels like a held breath. Until Sunday morning, when someone knocked on my door, hard. Through the peephole, Roger, Diane, Evan, and a police officer. I didn't open it right away. I straightened my sweater, checked the cameras, then turned the deadbolt. Ms. Wynne, the officer began, they're claiming you're withholding personal property belonging to Mr. Cole. Evan stared at the floor. Diane dabbed her eyes with a tissue that stayed suspiciously dry. Roger started talking before anyone asked him to. She's got my daughter's, his, belongings. Priceless heirlooms. Things from our family. She's refusing to release them. Officer, I said calmly, would you like to see documentation? I opened my tablet, pulled up the 3-hour sped-up video of their move-out. Every box labeled, every item carried, time-stamped. The officer watched 2 minutes before nodding. Ma'am, he turned to Evan, did you take all your belongings? Evan's voice was small. Yes. Then we're done here, the officer said, shutting his notebook. Stop wasting police resources. Roger exploded. You think you can get away with this? We'll sue you. Emotional damages, defamation, theft. The cop's tone sharpened. Sir, lower your voice or I'll cite you for disturbing the peace. They left, but something in Roger's face told me the story wasn't over. It was just mutating again. The next morning I got served. A lawsuit, $50,000. Counts. Emotional distress. Lost wages. The cruise deposit. Shared property. Defamation. I laughed so hard I scared myself. Then I called Tom, my lawyer friend. This is the dumbest case I've ever seen, he said. I'll handle it for free. Call it entertainment value. But Roger wasn't done performing. On Tuesday, he made his fatal mistake. He walked into my workplace, told security he was my father-in-law, and forced his way past the front desk into a client meeting I was leading. He started yelling about theft, betrayal, the cruise, my supposed cruelty. Security dragged him out while the client stared, wide-eyed and silent. My boss called company legal immediately. By afternoon, Roger had been arrested for trespassing. He spent one night in jail before Diane bailed him out. But even then, their problems weren't done multiplying. Remember that cruise money? Turns out Roger and Diane had borrowed $10,000 of it from Diane's brother. He was now demanding it back, with interest. And this time, he wasn't bluffing. By Thursday, Evan called me, voice cracked and hollow. "They're ruining my life, Alara. Please, I can't keep doing this." I took a breath. "I'll drop everything," he said. "The lawsuit, the drama. Just please, can we talk?" I agreed, but with lawyers present. And that's where the final act began. We met on a Friday afternoon that smelled like printer ink and stale coffee, the air-conditioned chill of consequence. The conference room belonged to Tom, my lawyer friend, who'd agreed to handle the case for the sport of it. He was already seated when I arrived, his suit impeccable, his grin sharp. Evan came in looking 10 years older, hollow eyes, jittery hands, a man learning that guilt isn't as temporary as a lie. Beside him sat a lawyer who clearly wished to be anywhere else, likely hired by Roger, judging by his twitch every time the family name appeared. Tom didn't waste time. "Let's be practical. You filed a claim for $50,000. My client has evidence of credit fraud, identity theft, and physical assault. That's 3 separate criminal charges plus civil penalties. We can either play hardball or close this neatly." The opposing lawyer looked at Evan, then at me. "What exactly are you proposing?" Tom slid a folder across the table. Inside, the settlement agreement. "They drop all claims," Tom said evenly. "Sign a no-contact order. Admit the attempted fraud in writing. Pay Alara's legal fees, $3,000 total. In exchange, she agrees not to pursue further criminal charges." Evan swallowed. His lawyer read silently, eyes widening at the part that said admit guilt. "This is mercy," Tom interrupted. "You're welcome." The door opened mid-silence. Roger burst in without knocking, Diane at his heels, whispering frantic apologies that meant nothing. Roger slammed his hand on the table. "This is a setup. You think you can blackmail my family into paying you?" Tom raised a brow. "Mr. Cole, you're not a party to this meeting. Please leave." Roger ignored him. "You've been manipulating my son. You're a gold digger who couldn't handle rejection." I leaned back, arms crossed. "Roger, you might want to sit down before you add defamation in a legal setting to your list of problems." The lawyer stood, calm but firm. "Mr. Cole, if you don't leave, I'll call security." Roger's mouth twitched. For a second, I thought he might lunge again, like at my apartment. Instead, he spat, "You'll regret this," and stormed out. Diane followed, murmuring something about ungrateful women as the door shut behind her. Silence lingered. Then Evan, quiet, tired Evan, picked up the pen. His voice cracked. "For what it's worth, Alara, I didn't mean for it to go this far." I didn't answer. Regret isn't currency. It doesn't pay back $15,000 or the sleepless nights that followed. He signed. His lawyer sighed. Tom countersigned, collected the documents, and said, "Congratulations, Alara. You're officially free." I stood, smoothing my coat. Before leaving, I looked at Evan. "You know what's funny? The word emergency used to mean something to me. But after you and your parents, now it just sounds like an excuse people use when their lies start drowning." He didn't reply. The pen still trembled on the table. In the weeks that followed, everything unfolded like a domino pattern, finally running out of tiles. Roger faced trespassing charges after my company pressed its complaint. Word got out, and his employer quietly terminated him for reputational reasons. Diane's brother, the one who'd lent them the cruise money, filed a civil claim. Their house went up for sale within a month. The presidential suite they'd bragged about? I looked it up one night, half out of morbid curiosity. It was the cheapest suite on the ship, a glorified cabin with a porthole the size of a dinner plate. Evan moved in with a friend, then out of the state. Someone said he was working freelance again, starting over. I didn't check. Some chapters deserve to stay closed. As for me, the apartment never felt quieter, but it wasn't empty. It was peaceful. I kept the security cameras, kept my credit frozen, learned to love the sound of my own name without someone else attached to it. A few months later, I met Nathan at a board game night. He offered to split the bill before the appetizers even arrived. "Just habit," he said, almost shy. I smiled. It's a good habit. Sometimes when he laughs, I hear what safety sounds like. Soft, unremarkable, genuine. One night he asked me why I still keep the cameras, the folders of receipts, the frozen credit reports. I said, Because peace isn't free. You have to guard it like treasure. He nodded, didn't argue, just took my hand. Before bed, I scrolled through an old folder labeled Evidence. My finger hovered over the delete icon, then stopped. Not because I wanted revenge, because it reminded me how easily comfort turns into captivity if you don't keep your own keys. The final file in the folder was the steakhouse photo. Roger mid-sentence, Evan blinking, Diane smiling for a camera that wasn't pointed at her. The caption I'd added months ago still made me smirk. Emergency dinner. Somewhere out there, they were still probably blaming me, still finding new definitions of injustice that kept them righteous. I poured myself a glass of wine, muted the city sounds outside, and whispered to no one, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Then I closed the laptop. For the first time in months, I didn't check the door locks twice, because this time the emergency was over.